One of the difficult parashas and sort of cryptic in this week's parasha is with the um, Dor HaPlaga, the people that tried to get together in Bavel, make one nation, one confederation, and then were HaKadosh Baruch Hu spread them out and so on. On the surface of it, it sounds as if it was a type of a punishment of sorts. It's very, very, very hard to understand what the aver is. After all, doing things with unified union of mankind seems to be a very, very positive virtue. We talk about unity and so on. So we have a hard time really understanding what it's about. So Duran in Drashas Haran, in the first drush of his, talks about this, and he explains. So he says like this: the even though Chazal tell us various plots that they had in mind, various averis that they were engaged in, he doesn't feel that this is what Shemikdaran says, and he has different proofs and so on. So he approaches it differently, and the Chazal give a certain context. He explains as follows, that having unity is extraordinarily powerful. It is very powerful. And therefore, if people who are not inherently good people engage in become unified, then it becomes extraordinarily dangerous. And let's take two of the points that he makes over here, two of the ideas that he is that he explains what are potential dangers. So basically, Duran is saying it's not as if they did something, they sinned specifically, but having them become a unified nation, a unified people, despite the fact that they were not good people, is in itself an extraordinary potential for danger. And let's dwell on two of the points that he makes why or how. One is that when you have imagine everyone worships the same Avodah Zarah. That creates a very, very powerful impact. It means that it's universal. If it's universal, it becomes almost equivalent to being axiomatic. Everyone believes that this pestle is avodah zarah. Everyone believes this religion, the other religion. So that everyone believes is something which would become a very, very dangerous ideology. For instance, today, if somebody will come and say he'll try to prove X or Y or Z different religions, but we tell him there are hundreds of millions of people that believe something else and something else and something else. So obviously, it's not something that is obvious. There is no religion that it comes to most of the world, so most of the world does not feel that this is obvious, this is obvious. So the idea that something is obvious and expressed by the fact that everyone buys into it, that's something that it does not exist and will not exist. The same thing is true. We actually saw once in a Barbanel who speaks about the philosophers. Philosophers were very, very bright people and people thought a lot, and they came out with conclusions that were anti-Torah, not Torah, certainly anti-Torah. But when we say to ourselves, but no two philosophers ever really held the same philosophy, so that tells us that 99.9% are certainly 100% wrong. And why would I think that the other one is, with that particular one, is right? So that is the first problem that could have arisen from unity, and HaKadosh Baruch Hu made sure they did not become one. The second one is as regards Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael are a people that are always persecuted and so on. History has it that whenever one religion, one country driven by a certain religion turns against the Jews, another one opens up and accepts them. I would like to point out one of the most incredible nisim, or hashgacha, if you wish, that in Jewish history is that a few years before the expulsion from Spain, something happened in Eastern Europe. The Muslims, the Ottoman Empire, won control of Turkey and the Balkans. It drove out the western section of the church, and all those countries became ruled by Muslim rulers who favored the Jews because the practical reasons Jews would bring business, so on. And also they felt a kinship because the Christians were against the Jews and against them, so they sort of were nice. And then when the Muslims persecuted us, the Christians took us in, and so on, back and forth. So if all of the countries had been united, we would be absolutely lost. But we couldn't do anything. There's a famous Fortune of Sasemis. He says, "Shalo echad bilvad amar aleinu chaloseinu," that there never was a unity of one that came out against us. They could never unify, and therefore that saved us. We were always able to run from one to the other. And if you check Jewish history, it's always was happening. One side turned against us, and the enemy of my enemy is my friend, and we became welcomed in whatever it is. Had they all been together, and the Ran points out, Avram Avinu himself had to run away from had to run away if from being tossed into the fire, from Nimrod tossed into the fire. And if there was no other country or enemy country, whatever it is, there was no way he could run. So the Ran is making the following point. Unity is not a positive a virtue in its own right. What unity does is it creates an entity that is an order higher than the details. So when you have different individual items, points, that's one thing. When they come together as a group, it creates an entity that's of a higher order than any one particular one. So just like, for instance, an army can fight a lot better than 1,000 individuals who are fighting. That's why a small army can control a mob much better, because the army is together and they're all, run with the same, with the command. So unity itself is not positive or virtue. It is an extraordinarily powerful expression. And therefore, it really depends on who's being unified. If tzaddikim are unified, then the good they accomplish is extraordinary. And that's why a person lives in a society where everybody's Shem Torah mitzvahs, and it's a lot of, the Shem Torah mitzvahs similarly and so on. It has a very powerful effect. So the first area in which unity can be either extremely positive or extremely negative is in terms of the core beliefs and ideas and so on. A world that would be over Avodah Zarah and be unified, where every single person worshiped the sheep, that would become a very, very difficult challenge for a Maimon. But one person worships a sheep, one person worships a jackal, one person worships a lion, and so on, then okay, Avodah Zarah is Avodah Zarah. The second area is B'nogea Klal Yisrael. Klal Yisrael looking for refuge. Klal Yisrael, over all of the centuries, has been persecuted. Having a country that's willing that is at loggerheads with the country that's persecuting us is very positive. It means we have refuge, we have help, whatever it is that we need, because my enemy's enemy. So and like historically, we've always gone to a country that welcomed us when the other country turned against us. So Achdus itself is not a positive or negative value. It's a reality. It creates something that is a lot more powerful than any prat, than any one individual, any one unit. When it's good, when the people come together are good, expressing an ideal and a value that's good, there's no limit to good they can do. If they are if the people are bad people. So what the Ran says is Hashem, they didn't do a particular avera, particular sin, which made them which made them deserve a punishment of this type of pizur of haflaga. It's just that he saw that they were not good people. And in their heart, there was a lot of not good. Allowing them to become a single entity, a single nation, would bring out the worst of them. And that's why Kadosh Baruch Hu stepped in and he made sure that they never became one. So both in terms of having different interests, competing interests, and two, the fact they didn't have the same language meant they did not have the same ideals, the same values, same avodah zarah. It was, so we look around, there's avodah zarah, but every avodah zarah is different from the other avodah zarah, and therefore it does not present that type of challenge.